All right, it's Nick Harcourt, and I've got Cheo, who I first met with Los Amigos Invisibles a long time ago, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But first of all, it's been a while. It's nice to see your face.
It's very nice to see you too, and it's very nice to see you. You're from the team of the music lovers still.
Exactly. Yes. 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 So, you're where are you? Where are you? Where are you living? Where are you quarantined?
I'm living in Brooklyn. I've been living in Brooklyn since 2001, so I'm here. I'm still can tell it's been home for a long time, and in this neighborhood in Fort Greene, I've been like probably like 11 years. So
Oh
yeah, I
wow.
can say yeah, it's my neighborhood.
So what have you been doing for the last 3 months with quarantine? How have you been handling it? What have you been up to?
Well, the record came out, so it got me a little busy. Like I wasn't expecting to put that record out during the quarantine, so it worked out really well. And then I started doing some DJ nights, some live Instagram, which I wasn't really fond of. I didn't really like it to do like Instagram live sets and stuff. But since the album came out, I was like getting like a little push from Nacional and from my manager, like you should do something live. And I started doing the DJ sets live, and they've been growing huge. Like they've been doing like every Friday we do Friday and Saturday we do sessions, and we get like I get like 4,000, 5,000 people in it, which is amazing, like incredible for me. But like I've been busy doing that, also like writing more stuff. I've been producing albums for a long time since I left the band, and I've been trying to produce stuff with other people, but it's been really slow and hard on the distance. Not being in the studio, it pays a toll. Like the experience is different. So it's been a little roller coaster over there.
Are you set up to record at home? Do you have a studio set up at
Yeah,
home, or if you?
I have a studio in Manhattan with a share with a couple friends, and I have a pretty cool, like my main setup is home, which is where I mix and everything. So it's yeah, I've been working in that too.
So, when did you stop going out? I mean, was it the middle of March when the first shelter in place came down in New York?
Yeah, middle March. I think it was March 29. I think it was, or something like no. Before that, I don't remember the day exactly, but it was a Friday where I went to pick up my kid's school, and there were rumors. I think it was going around, and there were already rumors that lockdown it was gonna come. So literally, we went and got his bag and everything, and got everything to get home because they announced on Sunday that it was a lockdown.
How
So
old
so
how
yeah.
old's your how old's your son?
My kid is 9 now.
9. So have you been able to spend more time with him, helping him with his schoolwork? Has he been doing
Oh
his
yeah,
schoolwork?
oh yeah, big time, big time. At
Yeah.
some point, like at some point, the homeschooling was like these little videos, these little quick times with instructions, and I was listening to what they're teaching. It's like, no, let me teach you how I do it. Like the multiplication, I do that. The kids like not get. So you gotta like reinforce a lot, which has been fun. It's been mixed between uh homeschooling and fun in the morning and stuff like, but he misses his friends as we all do. The kids, like, the way they more feel it for me is that they spend a lot of time with a lot of kids, and they don't anymore. So that's what I would say is hurting him more.
Yeah, I mean, this is the way everybody talks now, whether it's, a professional interview
Yeah,
about your business, or a kid trying to learn or communicate with his friends.
exactly. Yeah, it is what it is. We
Yeah.
gotta embrace it as good as we can.
So when I first met you, I think it was back in the early 2000s, and it was with Los Amigos Invisibles, still one of the
Correct.
coolest band names ever, I think. Obviously out of Venezuela originally. And I remember you were on my old show at the other place back in, we were just talking about it before we started recording, back in
Uh-huh.
2004. And, you've been out of the band for a little while now. When did you actually go solo and not go back?
I think, I mean, I now, back then I wasn't sure what I was doing. I was really tired, but I now compare the feeling that I had. Los Amigos was like touring from, I would say, 1997 to 2000. They still tour nonstop. So it was like more than 20 years touring nonstop, not knowing where you're gonna sleep the next week and stuff like that. And and I describe now my feeling of, like, the feelings where kids are like falling asleep but they don't know they're tired. They're like, I was like that towards the end. I was exhausted, and there was no fight, there was no nothing, there was no hard feelings or anything. It was just like, I need a break. I need to spend time home. And my kid was small back then. I was like, I think I need to see what else is out there for me in the music. I've been doing this for a long time. I think I gave all I had in me to make this fun and make this better. And I was like, it's time for me to start over again. And literally I left the band. I was already I already had the studio, Los Amigos recording in my studio the last two albums. So I started like making music for commercials to see what happened. Like making music for I landed into soundtrack, making for movies. I started teaching guitar. So I was like trying different stuff, and life pushed me back again into producing bands. So one of the bands in Venezuela was upcoming band called me to produce the album, and Rawayana is their name, and and the album did great. The album was a hit. So 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 that opened up more doors, and I started like developing this thing. This I was making peace with the idea that, okay, like now it's the turn for a new generation of musicians to come up and do stuff. So I'm gonna be out in my mind. I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to be what David Byrne was to me, like this mentor, and trying to lead the way into making good albums and good stuff. And I was in total peace with that, and I got into that role, and I loved it. Like I I was like, I was seeing this kid like tour in a van and sleeping in a van, and everybody in one room, and I was like, that's good for you. I'm not doing that anymore. And so that started to happen, and it was great because also like learning from the music business in their perspective. Like now, my music business was like CDs, albums, like PR campaigns, and just touring your ass off everywhere, trying to get more following. And these kids have a different approach. It's like social media, playing live in the Instagram, doing stuff like creating a movement, making fans believe there's more fans like them. That this it's a whole different game. And it was great to see how empowered these kids are, which was in a way a different empowerment that we had back then. And it was great to learn that. And then after a while, I started like, since seeing their problems, seeing how musicians uh from this generation are like scared of of trying new stuff. I started thinking that there was no people from my generation of Latinos, of musicians, that were like leading the way to do something else than urban music. So I was like, oh, maybe I should do an album, just to see what happens. And that's how Sorpresa came out, like trying to prove that, like there's, like, I grew up with so many cool mentors, like even David in Latin America. I grew up with Soda Stereo. There were bands that were not like betting for the pop urban thing that is so popular now. I was like, I think our generation doesn't have enough men people doing the weight on the other side of the balance. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to do something, and it was great. I'm thankful for that impulse that I had.
Yeah, you're making me feel old now because you're talking about
No,
20,
no,
20
don't
years
feel.
20 years ago when you guys were the up and coming musicians and within your genre, and now obviously with that experience and as a producer and perhaps understanding the business side of it
Totally.
a little bit better. You mentioned David Byrne, of course, who released your album on Luakabop Records, and you talk about him as being a mentor. What did you learn from that time? What did you learn from him?
Well, David, of course, like David Byrne is my before and after. We were a band in Venezuela that got signed to David Byrne's label, and we went all over the world, introduced by this cool guy. So I must say, David, like as a mentor and as a label manager, and now I'll include Yale, which was his partner back then, into it. They were always worried about having a good album more than a sales album, a sales hit. They were like always like try to do the best album you can. And there's so many moments that I can recall of like there's a story that I always tell to my kids when I'm producing that we were making a Repa 3000. We was like around the 2000s, and the drum and bass was huge, and I was really infatuated by the drum and bass, and I wanted to put like drum and bass beats in everywhere. And I remember David sitting down to me saying like in 10 years nobody's gonna remember this. And I was like, oh, this is kind of arrogant to say that. It's like, just make an album that in 10 years is going to be still cool. Just make an album that is going to last forever. And I remember those words, and I follow his lead, but now that's something I repeat a lot. When, you know, I get a band that want to make a trap song, or he was like, dude, like, try to make something that, you know, in 20 years is going to be great. Because it's like, whenever you feel a trend, you never know. And I remember like his effort and his team, I must say, we're always trying to make an album that is gonna last for a long time. And I think in albums that way when I listen to them and when I make them, of course.
It's great advice not to chase trends.
Yeah, totally.
And to really sort of think about it when you go into.
I remember he said, I'm sorry, he said something I repeat so much. He says, in 2 years, that synth sound you're using is gonna be 2 years old. And I was like, huh, interesting.
Yeah.
So everybody, it's what it is, right?
It sounds like you got some really good advice there early on. So how do you take that into the work you do with people now? I mean, obviously you tell me that you're trying to mentor younger bands.
Yeah, I try to increase my methods, and I think that with artists, it's important to let them know that their vision is the more important. There's always people that's gonna come and try to contaminate that, and try to everybody, especially in music. Everybody believes, everybody says that you know about music. So everybody that makes opinions about the songs you're making has a valid opinion. So you gotta like always try to keep focus on where you want to go, because like you're the one that are gonna every band is they are the ones that are gonna tour whatever they're playing, and they're the ones with that's gonna carry with that album. So you better like it. You better feel like yours.
You know, I've shared this story with a number of people in the last couple of years, and so for anybody who's hearing it again, I'm sorry, but you know, as you can imagine, in the job that I do, I've met a lot of different people from a lot of different walks of life, different ages,
I bet you do.
Different musical styles, and I think the best advice. There's two pieces of advice I got that are amazing. The first one is from Quincy Jones, who I've had the very good fortune to spend some time with, doing some work, interviews and stuff. And, you know, depending on where you fit, where you fall spiritually, he just said, you know, if you only make music for money, when you're in the studio and you're making a decision based on money, God walks out of the room.
Wow.
Which I really love. And then the other one, which is the one I was thinking about when you were just talking about, you know, different ways of doing things, is I interviewed Peter Frampton a few years ago. And he said to me, there are no rules. Everyone will tell you there are rules, but there are no rules. And it's very freeing, I think, if you can understand that whatever you want to bring to the plate, if it feels right, do it.
Definitely, yeah, 100%. And I think I at this point, at this point in my life, I think that if you're honest with, I mean, if you place a song you like in the radio, there's like a huge chance that a lot of people's gonna connect with it. There are a lot of people is gonna like the same thing, is gonna feel like you do, and it's gonna have the experience that led you to that to feel that same thing you feel with that song. So I think it applies to everything. So I'm happy to have landed in those hands that led me the way into making music that I love.
You know, we're talking about the Latin Alternative Music Conference, which is 20 years old this year.
Yes.
And obviously because of the pandemic, we're not all together in a hotel or in a venue in New York where this
hanging out. Yeah.
It's been happening for a long time. So I thought it was very smart of them to actually put the whole thing online and to make it free, because it just brings so many people into the conference. I mean, the conference is online, obviously, and it's not the same as, you know, shaking hands and hugging people or whatever, but everybody gets a chance to, you know, touch base and communicate. And at 20 years old, I was thinking about the very first one that I went to when I first became aware of this music, when I moved to Los Angeles. And at the time, Latin alternative as a term was new. It was something that was new, because up until then, and I'm sure you have an opinion on this, you know, based on, you know, where you're from.
Definitely, yeah, of course.
Up until then, anything Spanish that, you know, had a guitar on it was called rock en español, right? And Latin alternatives seemed to be a term for everything else that didn't fit into either a pop category or, you know, a heavy metal category. How do you think the genre has evolved over the last 20 years? If you can think of, you know, when you first started out, because I guess I'm talking about the music from an Anglo point of view, right? Playing this music to English-speaking audiences. You know, there was a time where it was like, well, you shouldn't sing in English. There was a time, well, you should sing in English. There was a, well, you should mix it up. How do you think Latin alternative, and are you comfortable with that term, first of all? I mean, how do you feel it has evolved in the last 20 years?
Yeah, I think the evolution of that term, I mean, it's always been like when the Latin explosion happened back in the 90s, I think the approach from the labels was, if there's Shakira and there's like Ricky Martin, there must be something else. The kids must be listening to that, and that's where bands like us, like Aterciopelados, Café Tacuba came in, like into that panoramic of, okay, this is the mainstream. There should be an alternative, and the term rock en español has been applied to that for a long time, as you said. But then alternative, I think maybe Tomas was the one that came up with that term, trying to separate that.
Thomas
But I'll tell you that
from
Tomas
Nacional Records, yeah.
Koopman, yeah, who he literally like is the father of the conference. But I would say that the evolution of it has been really related, and this is my opinion, with the gaining of self-esteem of the Latin American countries. Like, I think when we were I think we were like the first generation of musicians that were proud of being Venezuelans and proud of our influences. Venezuela is a place where you can listen to salsa, you listen to rock, you listen to punk, and we were proud of that. And I think every country in different ways has gone through the same thing, and incorporating the music. So as you see Café Tacuba, and I think part of the crescendo of that came with the validation of the Anglo markets, of the European markets. When European markets and Anglo markets are started like paying respect to Café Tacuba, or to maybe bands like Aterciopelados or ourselves, like our colleagues in Latin America started saying like, wow, it's totally cool if we don't try to imitate the rock they do. Like the concept of my career, and what I listen to some bands saying is that let's do something they cannot do, like, because the rock as they do it, we cannot do it as well as they do it, but we can do something else. We can do something that
your version,
or our own version,
by bringing
exactly
in your own influences.
And I think that it started getting excited when bands like us or Café Tacuba, or even like new ones like Messier Periné, go out on tour and do well outside. Because like, if you go and my opinion is that if you go outside and I'm gonna play, like, you cannot compete with Green Day. Like they do what they do.
Sure.
So you have to do something different.
Right.
And I think when Latin Americans bands started seeing that bands who did that started doing well outside and in their country, like, everything started getting contagious. So I think I am eager to believe that most of Latin American bands are in that quest of like that sound of making something different. And I even El Cuco that is from LA, you listen to El Cuco and you're like, wow, this is different. This is something. Or I think bands are in that search, and it's been great. I think because like we're doing something that you guys like, and we're doing something that our people likes as well. So it's
right.
like a whole. It's gonna take more time, but it's getting there, I think.
I think so. It's funny. I mean, I remember sitting in on a panel at a Latin alternative music conference maybe 10 years ago and saying, I can't believe there's no radio station in Los Angeles that doesn't just exclusively play this music. And here we are 10 years later, and there still isn't. I mean, the good news is that there are a couple of stations, obviously my old station and then the station I work at now, 88.5. And even K-Rock has just added a Latin alternative show late Saturday nights or something. So we'll get there. I think we'll get there eventually. I think eventually the demographic the first station that becomes a Latin alternative station for the demographic, I think, you know, for anybody under 40 who likes that music, is going to clean up. They really will. It's just a matter of time until somebody actually gets it. But in the meantime, obviously, everybody is still creating and experimenting. What are you up to right now? What are you doing? I mean, what are you working on this week? What's coming up for you in the next couple of months?
This week, I'm working with 3 different singers. Like singer from Argentina, I'm writing songs with her. I'm producing Luz Pinos, which is a singer from Ecuador. I'm gonna send it to you. It's beautiful. And I'm pre-producing an album for a Mexican singer as well. But like since like the pandemic has been playing out weird for us, it's been okay. Let's just focus on the writing part, and then we'll have a chance to record in the following weeks. I hope so.
Are you getting more work done at home or less?
Less, I would say, like equal, probably different work. I would say.
Is it fun? Is it fun having more time to be a dad?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. It's fun also to, you know, like I've been doing this rearranging of all my albums and all my records, or like a lot of organizing work, which, you know, it comes handy, like seeing like, oh, and listening to a lot of music that I haven't listened to in a long time. So that's definitely, I would take it as an inspiration moment.
So we're recording this on Tuesday, June 9th, and the LAMC just started today. It's running through the week. My hope is that we're going to get this interview up online tonight, or if not tonight, early tomorrow morning. Okay. I don't know if you know this, but we have I don't run this radio station. I just do a morning show. There's other people in charge. But I've been suggesting recently that we should be doing a little bit more in this format because, well, you know my history in it. But we have an HD3 channel, a Latin alt channel. So if you're driving in Los Angeles and you know how you have the HD options, we have a Latin alternative channel, and it's run by a guy called Byron Gonzalez, who is doing a bunch of these interviews today. And I know that he's going to be trying to put all these up on YouTube tonight. We have a special YouTube channel for the Latin alternative side of what we do. So that's a long-winded way of me saying on Saturday, if anybody is looking at this between June 9th and whatever the date is on Saturday, what would that be, the 13th or something? You're actually doing a performance, right, on the LAMC?
I'm doing a DJ set. Yeah, I'm doing a set for in Summer Stage Online, which is Summer Stage. Like it's a very important festival here in New York, and they're putting it online since the pandemic is going on. And I've been thinking, I've been very excited because I want to like do like a whole, like when they say rock en español or Latin alternative, they rarely speak about dance music. So I want to do like a whole set of dance music from Ilya Kuriaki, Charlie Garcia, all of those guys that made the dance music believable for Latin musicians.
Yeah, well, it's great to see you, man.
Great to see you too, man. I'm really pleased, and I hope we can see each other in person very soon.
Yeah, maybe somewhere soon in New York when we can all get back together, and, you know, maybe Summer Stage next year.
Hope so. Yeah. God bless.
Cheo, great to see you, man. Thank you.
Great to see you, man. Have a good one.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.